I do want to clarify that I don't want to just ramble, even though I do ramble. I 100% ramble. But if anybody sees this, we need to get together. Contact me. My information's out there somewhere. I'll put it back, whatever. We need to change the world. And I think a lot of things that we can do is sometimes it's simply just talking about it. I mean, we talk about it because then we can actually do something. But I think that's the problem, that we don't feel free to talk about it. And a lot of us live in a society and live with the ideology of, that's someone else's job and what can I do? And I've listened to a lot of people say that. Well, what am I supposed to do? Because I'm not a politician. I'm not this. Here's the deal. We can do anything that we want to do, but it's about us doing things together instead of doing things separately. And that's what the powers that be rely on, because they want to rely on us saying, well, what can I do and who am I? I'm just one person and I can't change things. We have to change things, because I'm not psychic or clairvoyant by any means, but I've seen things. And I think a lot of us are seeing trends in the world that are very unpopular and kind of silly, and we're not going any place good. We're greedier than ever. We're more selfish than ever. Everybody's trying to make a Forbes list, and they're not doing anything for anybody else. In fact, here's a secret, and I think some of us may or may not realize this: money's not real. Money's not real. Imagine you go to the store and everything's becoming cashless. You go and you swipe a card, you touch a card against something, and you touch your watch or something, and it checks you out to say that you're okay. And if it goes and sends you an X, you're not okay. Here's the deal: if everybody kind of went to work and generically did something, if your bills are going to get paid and you didn't get a paycheck, guess what? You'd be okay. Our world has survived long before money. It's a construct to keep you in your place. And what the powers that be are afraid of is that without that noose around your neck, how would you be? Would you be okay? Would you conform? Would you show up from day to day? And I think that's the thing. We talk about control, but I believe that when given freedom, you do things because you want to, never because you have to. And when you do things because you want to, in my opinion, I've worked better this way. And I think a lot of other people work better that way. We can actually evolve into something greater instead of being very tethered to everything and just dumb, stupid stuff. Hey, we're making cars that cost all this money. Cars are worse than they've ever been. They have more amenities and more things about them than they've ever had, but they're worse. We live in a very disposable society. People, you have multimillionaires and people that aren't even millionaires customizing homes. Homes are harder to sell now because everybody wants to buy a house and knock down a house and rebuild the house in their own image. Before, I don't know the numbers on this, only a handful of people did it. Now it seems like everybody with a couple of extra dollars to rub together does that. But the thing is, now one wants to buy houses because they're too custom. And that just kind of goes into our disposable society. But we have a lot of people that are homeless. We have a lot of people that are mentally ill. We have a lot of things like this. I'm not saying we're responsible for all of them, but I know certain way we kind of are, because we're responsible for each other, whether we want to be or not. We just inherently are, because, as I said before, we're not colonizing Mars. And if we did something like that, they'd only take a handful of people. I'm not saying I'm not invited, but they're only taking a handful of people. If anything were even in the vicinity being possible. And chances are, if you're seeing this, you're probably not one of them. And it's not a bad thing. Why don't we just work with what we have here? Why don't we get off of our butts and not rely on the government to fix things? Let's rely on ourselves, because I'm all about a people's government. The government's only going to go so far, because I think you have to realize the government is ruled by corporate America. It's a bunch of guys in suits, whether you're Democrats, Republicans, independent, the votes that don't count allegedly. All these guys are getting together, and it's a divide and conquer system. We have 45 different kinds of donuts. We have 75 different kinds of shampoo. We have a million different kinds of shoes that are all overpriced. And they're all made by the same kids in China making 2 cents a day, whether they're Jordans or they're the shoes you find at Walmart. But people are still stupid enough to go spend $300, $400 to buy them, make other people inherently so rich we can't even fathom it. Those people saw you walking around their neighborhoods, they'd probably call the cops. Thanks for supporting them. We have a lot of problems. We have a very disposable society. We have to fix this. And I think we should have a people's government, because then we could say, you know what? I don't like what's going on. I saw something, in building some bathroom for everybody to go to in a school someplace. And it was somehow millions of dollars. I'm like, how's a bathroom millions of dollars? And just stuff like that. I think we should all have rights, but there's a certain point where our rights go too far. I'm a large black man. All I'm ever going to be is a large black man. If I get arrested, the police are going to say we have a 6'2", 240-pound black man. I can't say, hey, guess what? I identify as an Asian female. That's some laughable shit, right? I'm glad people are laughing. If anybody sees it's funny. I'm obviously not an Asian female. I can say I identify as such, but you can laugh at me and say, what a joke. I'm still a large black man. So sometimes people just are what they are, and it's not a bad thing. Be what you are as a human being. And we have to have rights, and it's a great thing, but let's not take them to the point where it's just like ridiculous. Hey, I want to take my elephant in the grocery store with me. He helps me deal with small spaces or some shit like that. Pardon my French. We have to do better. It's imperative that we do so. We have to work together. And am I my brother's keeper? The answer is yes and no. But we're here and we should help each other. And that's just to inspire each other and not to be so selfish. Because I realize a lot of times people that do well sometimes are afraid of others doing well because they're afraid of them, other people not just becoming mountains like they are, but surpassing what they do. And it's like, I don't know. I think we should live for each other and live for what God wants us to do and not try to make our own legacy every 5 seconds. And it shouldn't be predicated on being on a big list. I made so much money, because most of these people do it, but it's like, what are you doing for somebody else? And it's like, I'd much rather die in a situation where I'm absolutely broke, never destitute, just broke. Because that means, you came in the world with nothing. Actually, you come in the world with more. This is saying, you come in the world with more than you left with, ideally. Because when you come in, you have a lot of prospects, you have a lot of opportunities, you have a lot of dreams, a lot of hopes. And to make those things come true is amazing. But when you die with the knowledge of the things you did, but you die with nothing, because you're taking nothing with you. So all this sitting back, trying to make money, making energy drinks, making more liquor for people to drink and kill themselves is kind of ridiculous. Also, on my 6 minute and 45-second tangent, we should start taxing alcohol companies. I'm a big fan of that, because apparently these pharmaceutical companies and all these other companies have to pay. Potentially, they're making poison that kills people, or there's something that's going to happen that might hurt someone. So they have to have money allocated for potential lawsuits. So I'm a big fan of, if you come out with a liquor, you come out with a new whatever. I've gotten in trouble for multiple DUIs. That's my bad. But here's the deal. Everybody wants you to buy their product. Everybody's going to sell their product. Everybody's going to push their product. But when the cops are behind you, or when you've wrecked your umpteenth Mercedes, nobody's going to be there to help you pick up the pieces, except, obviously people that love you, and it's only a handful of people. Those alcohol companies, they ain't here to help you. AB ain't here to help you. P. Diddy ain't here to help you. Even our good friend, Mr. Dwayne The Rock Johnson, ain't here to help you. He's sitting back collecting his shillings, making his, house bigger. And I hate to name names, but this is a really bad thing for all of us. So I think these companies should be taxed on their profits. It shouldn't go toward, okay, we're going to make that product so much more expensive, because no one ever wants to talk about what companies are making and in terms of their profits. They're always going to tell you what they can't afford anymore. And I've worked a lot of places, and typically when they let people go, they always have the money. But what happens when they let people go is the people at the top get to keep all the money. The money was always there. They just didn't want to pay you. You were no longer a viable part of that equation. So they get rid of you. And then they all keep the money and they split it up and they buy bigger houses and they have them customized. So let's stop being stupid. Let's do something better. But I think that should be a real thing, because I think in order to, be the boss, you got to pay. You got to pay. And a lot of people don't understand what that means. A lot of people go through, but here's the deal. It's not what you did yesterday, it's about what you're doing today. And it never, ever stops. There's never a point where you can just sit back and just go in cruise control. And everybody, I did all this work. You guys still work. There's no point where we just stop working. Don't talk about being a hard worker and not be willing to show up. So guess what? Everybody's got to start paying that price. So if you agree with anything that I said in that, give a shout out. We got to make some stuff more law-like, because maybe it'll cut down on drinking, maybe it'll cut down on DUIs, maybe it'll cut down on some sales, but all of a sudden we'll have quality over just quantity, and no one caring, just sitting back at home and making a fatter paycheck to buy a bigger house and another yacht and acquire more stuff. So when they die, they just have a lot of stuff.